Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking new format in this video and looking a little bit over the horizon. We waited 7 months for a ban list, and while many were understandably underwhelmed, there are a bunch of new things that are about to be released that should shake up the game a bit. We've got Maximum Crisis, 2 new structure decks, hell, even a whole bunch of erratas and Duelist Saga that will definitely shape the next 6 months of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, just to clarify, we don't actually know how long this format will last, so I'll only be considering cards and products that will be released within the first week of July in North America. So, you know, basically anything after national season is not going to be taken into consideration. So the 2017 starter deck and all of its link summoning greatness, that's completely out. With all that said, welcome to the top 10 decks of the March 31st, 2017 format, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Hierarchy. Number 10, SHIRANUI variants. Whether you love or hate the limiting of Max C, it's blatantly obvious that synchro decks will benefit the most from the card going to 1. SHIRANUI are arguably the game's best synchro deck, and Omega escaping banless season without a scratch bodes very well for this zombie bunch. Less oppression with the same power, SHIRANUI were a no-brainer to be put on this list. Number 9, Metaphors. I actually thought about not adding Metaphors to this list at all, mainly because it's losing undoubtedly the most powerful card in the entire deck, Magispect the Kirin. Then I thought about how strong the grind game is and how it can easily incorporate Denko Sekka to fight against a back row heavy format. Sure, Imperial Order being unbanned doesn't help, and Anti-Spell Fragrance is definitely a pain in your ass, but Metaphors still have a lot of power in Bio Baboon, and I think the deck is just searching for another huge power play boss monster. Maybe something like Apex Avion can work because Metaphors obviously have the scales that are wide enough to incorporate it. Honestly, I'm not sure that there is a perfect replacement for Kirin, but I do know that the Magispector engine doesn't really work in Metaphors without it. Number 8, Chain Burn. This is a change of pace. I've been doing this list for years, and I honestly can't think of a time where Chain Burn was legitimately considered a good meta pick. I guess that changes today, as many have discovered since early February. Chain Burn has an excellent Zodiac match, and this is because Zoos don't excel at spell and trap negation, so Chain Burn is largely able to do whatever it wants all game. This can also be said about a lot of the rogue matchups, and just in general, I don't think that duelists are really prepared for Chain Burn, especially not game 1. Be advised though, there are some decks in the meta like Paleozoics and Dinos that have a significant amount of negation built into their Xyz. Number 7, Barrier Statues. It's no secret, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game based around special summoning. Most archetypes in the Arc V era are very dependent on getting their boss monsters out of the extra deck, and Barrier Statues are 100% designed to make sure this never happens. Going first, it is probably the most oppressive deck in the entire game, and since it isn't vulnerable to being outed by kaijus, this makes just getting these suckers off the field extremely difficult. Add that to the buff that Necro Valley just got, and this deck is very solid. Number 6, Burning Abyss variants. I think that I'm probably liking Burning Abyss and PK Fire a lot more than the average Yu-Gi tuber right now. 60 card versions get a ton of value from that grass looks greener because your Phantom Knight traps can be banished to summon the monsters, and your PK monsters can be banished to search the traps. That also has a lot of natural synergy with the Burning Abyss monsters because we all know that they just love being milled to the graveyard where they can obviously activate. Burning Abyss and its variants also just kind of fit the meta. You can run a billion traps and you can wall up and protect yourself, flip over things like Dimensional Barrier, making your opponent just not be able to have effective turns. Maybe I'm overvaluing the deck a lot more than I should, but it just kind of feels like a poor man's Paleozoic, which I think is definitely still strong. Number 5, WINDWITCH Invoke. So WINDWITCHes haven't done as expected. They haven't done as well as we'd like to see on the YCS level, but there's definitely still some hope there. For starters, you can expect a lot less Maxis to be chained to your Ice Bell. This means more turn 1 free Crystal Wing Synchro Dragons. You combine that with Artifact Scythe, which is still a powerhouse because it can lock your opponent out of the extra deck, and you have a very, very good stun deck, especially when you have turn 1s of Raideen plus Crystal Wing. It's incredibly difficult for your opponent to actually deal with both of those problems at the same time. I do think the deck is super susceptible to battle traps, which isn't exactly great considering Paleozoic is expected to be one of the best decks of the format, but I don't know. I'm still looking at unkillable Crystal Wings, and I think that that's just going to be a problem that a lot of decks are going to struggle to deal with. Number 4, True King Dinosaurs. I'm not gonna lie here, there's a large part of me that wants to move this deck up a spot, but it's just kind of difficult when you haven't seen it perform in the TCG. As of right now, it's arguably the best deck in the OCG, and it's got some great pushing power, amazing boss monsters. The Exceed fields can put Zodiac completely to shame. There's just, the fact that the TCG is known as a different beast, and Zodiac, Paleo are basically still at full power here, where they don't have to deal with that in Japan. If you haven't seen the deck in action, in my opinion, the potential is definitely there for this deck to not only top, but definitely even win a YCS, but we'll just have to see exactly how effective it is when it comes out soon. Number 3, 60 card Infernoids. This one's pretty simple. That grass looks greener was basically made for this archetype. Infernoids probably are the most high risk, high reward deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's because sometimes you can have some issues with opening hands being kind of bricky, but hey, that's where the Zodiac engine comes in, and it basically gives you a field of Exceeds for basically nothing. The crazy lockdown is also really important in this deck because Void Feast leads to some absolutely nutty plays where you can negate about half of the cards in your opponent's hand. It's actually downright scary, especially considering the monsters that you throw in the graveyard will probably be coming back during the later turns in the game. Right out the gate, I would say that this deck also has some of the strongest turn 1 fields, which is just really good because a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played within the first couple of turns. Number 2, Zodiac variants. So shortly after the overreaction of, oh my god, Zodiac is finally dead, people pretty much realized instantly that not really. It wasn't dead. In fact, it was going to be one of the strongest decks in the game still. All you had to do was focus a tiny bit more on Elder Entity Norden. Considering this is a card that you were already running because of Lunar Light Black Sheep, it's really not that much to ask from your deck. Basically, you can do all the broken combos that you were doing before the ban list by just running Instant Fusion. Considering you're running a rank 4 deck and you're already running Norden anyways, this should have kind of been common sense, but it wasn't for some stupid reason. In layman's terms, Zodiacs are just as strong as they were before. The combos have slightly changed, but the benefits you reap are just as high. Zodiacs aren't going anywhere. I guess that would be the central point that I'm trying to make here. Honorable mentions include Zephyra and Lightsworn. Finally, to our number 1, Paleozoic. You should have known that this was coming. If a deck wins back-to-back YCS titles and gets completely ignored by the ban list, it should be the best deck going into a new format. Paleos have the best grind game in Yu-Gi-Oh! They have the best XC in Yu-Gi-Oh! They take advantage of that grass looks greener as well as any deck in the game, and quite frankly, I just don't get it, but people still aren't siding for it like it's the top dog. If I was a betting man, I'd say that that's drastically going to change because the bullseye should be solely on the back of this Froggy deck. Now, its reign as the top deck probably couldn't come at a worse time because that new Necro Valley buff is huge and it is going to be the bane of this archetype's existence. But if you can keep that off the field, Paleozoic are looking like the cream of the crop here. So what do you guys think? What do you think is going to ultimately be the best deck of the format? What deck are you guys going to run for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Through national season? Leave that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching as always, and subscribe if you have not already. Subscribing makes life happy.